We're ready. Are you ready? I should let you introduce yourself. No. Hello. Everybody ready for another great artist this afternoon? Make sure you turn your phones off. Miss Laura told me to remind you. And this afternoon we have famous artist from St. Joe, Texas, Randy Meador. I usually don't read much from these, but this was pretty good. It says, while reading a Churchill biography in 1991, Randy meditated on his word, Churchill's word, and said, when I paint, nothing else exists. And Randy began to paint that day. And he'll paint for us today.
I'm Randy Meador, and this is watercolor. It's not painting, it's watercolor. It's all about what? So, you know what? They're going to tear the building down so we can go crazy, right? It doesn't matter. It's open season on the building. I don't know that I have that much to offer outside of there are things that I learned only because no one ever taught me what you could not do. And so I assumed if I was bullheaded enough and I tried enough and I spent enough money on pigment, I could do it. And one of those things was I would go to things like the Amy Carter and think, why aren't my blacks looking like that? Well, because I'm an idiot and I'm looking at an oil painting. But I didn't know that. I'm just thinking, mine suck and this is beautiful. And so that began a journey of things that I didn't know you weren't supposed to be able to do. So what I hope we can spend a few moments today. I have an hour and a half, correct? Okay. Meaning be done at 2:30, dude. You know, we'll be done no matter what, because this is watercolor and we make stuff up as we go. Besides, we can't control anything. It's water. We'll do the best we can. So here's where we're going today. If it's possible to take a brush of any size or appropriate size, put that brush in water, create a pigment of some kind in that water, touch it to the paper, lift it up, and go smoke something. That is the secret to vibrancy in watercolor. Here's how I know that, and here's how I know you know that. It doesn't matter where you are on the watercolor journey, here or here. In fact, I've had professional watercolorists take my workshops, one of them anyway, and I thought, he's got the same name as that guy whose books I read. Well, it was him. But he came to learn something that people call the Meador black. It's just my black in my attempt to make it look like the oil painting. We came up with a black that's somewhat luminous after a few $100,000 worth of pigment later. And we'll learn that today, or at least I'll show it to you. In case no one ever tells you, anybody never watercolored before? Okay, let me see this again. Anybody never watercolored before? Oh yeah, I can guarantee if you've never watercolored before and you learn this, you're going to be ahead of everybody else in here. I promise, I really promise. And the reason is, they got all this stuff in their head. They've been taught by junior high, high school, college. They took his workshop and her workshop and their workshop, and they've got all this stuff in their head. They can't swing a golf club worth of anything because so many people are in their head. And when they pick up a brush, they go right back to the same thing they did before. Okay, pretend that these two folks who have never watercolored in your life, And I think will give you an option in the future so that you can look at a watercolor in a whole new way, as long as you either drink a lot before you start or you just remember, don't do what you've always done. Do something new, something crazy, something you would have done when you were 4 years old and your mother would have put it on the refrigerator, right? Yes, because you did it and you played. We forget to play. We get to do this. Some of us make a living playing at this. It's kind of fun. All right, let's start. How much water is in this brush? There's that much. Now, there's that much. Now there's that much. That's a very dry brush. From now on, we're going to call this not a brush. Because a brush is something you use when you want to paint. We take one of these, we stick it in paint, we come to a surface, and we cover that surface with the paint. Hopefully we've chosen some colors that some get absorbed, some reflect back, and we have a luminous effect. That's what painting does. Eamon Carter's got a few of those. They're pretty cool. Some are just, you think, that's the dullest thing in the world, except for this beautiful bright part that looks like it has a light coming out of it. Why? Because it has a light coming out of it. Light hits it, is absorbed by those nasty looking colors, but bounces back beautifully in the ones that come back. That's not what watercolor does. So here's what I want us to do. Take a little venture. We no longer paint. Our painting days are over, at least for today. But I love that about watercolor. It's so diverse. It can do anything. You can squeeze it right out of the tube and use it and make art with it. I just want to learn I want us to take us a trip down Luminosity Lane, where we're doing something luminous. Okay. Am I too loud up front? Hear me in the back. Excellent. This is what we use to watercolor. I'm not kidding. When you pick up that familiar brush, oh, I know what to do with this. I mix these. I've done this before. Yeah, you've done this before. I've made mud before too. No, I don't pick up a brush. I pick up a mop. And I've prepared buckets of water. Some have a little bit of pigment. Some have a lot of pigment. Some have different colors in them. And I'm making a plan for where I'm going to mop. We use a mop to mop a floor. In our case, we're going to mop rooms, where we're going to choose one room at a time. What is our room going to be? And we're going to mop that room. Then we're going to pick up our our mop, and we're going to go smoke something. We're going to do this. I think it's the most useful technique in watercolor there is, to sit there and do nothing and let it watercolor. I need to prove it. Well, I can prove it by having us look at some of our pieces that we've done in the past. We think, this is beautiful. I'm a genius. And you keep going. It's not dark enough, so I make it a little darker. And you keep going. I'm not quite the genius I was, but it's not dark enough, so I put more pigment in it. And by the time you're done, you got mud. I do it. Still do it. And you look over at your palette that you haven't done anything to, and it's beautiful because you left it alone. And it does watercolor for you. And you really are a genius when you leave it alone. Here's our problem. We feel like we have to control it. Because almost every other medium you do. You have to control what's going in there. And it's oftentimes not easy. Where are my... I'm sorry, I don't want to just shout to the various sound people or the camera folks. Where should I stop being active for the camera? Right here to here? Okay, cool. So you can see this. Excellent. All right. I actually meant to bring a piece, a drawing that is kind of like the piece that's in this show of a yellow slicker and a black background, but I didn't bring that drawing. I brought this one. And this is a guy named Steve Buren. He's one of my models here in town. And this is what I'll do for our demo. And I just saw that we're hanging demos on the wall. That's like scary. And here's I have a solution for that. Something like this. What are you talking about over there? They've seen me before. There. Do that sometimes. This is called playing. I've now ruined my masterpiece. The pressure's off now. Now I can have fun. I've already messed up. We get so... See, I have to be careful because I have this tendency to say what I want to say and then realize I should have been more tactful. So let's go with plan A and see if it works. We get so tied up with, we've spent 4 hours on this drawing and it's finally time to start doing something and we're thinking, okay, how do I start? Okay, and we're like this and we're so tense you couldn't pull a pin out of our rear end with a tractor. It's just, no, just mess it up and go. Because this is water, you can't control it anyway, it's water. In watercolor, and forgive me for those who are more experienced than I am in this medium, but in watercolor we generally work from light to dark. Things work out better when we do that, at least in traditional things. I'm choosing portraiture only because everybody's scared of it and it's easy. The other one was basically a portrait too. So we're going to keep this as our example. Is it better for me to do things upside down or... So it's better like this? Okay, very good. So we're going to look at, I'm going to squint, what's Richard Smith, a fantastic artist, passed away a couple of years ago. He's got a book called Plein Air, I think. Please buy it. It doesn't matter what your medium is, just buy it. And you don't have to worry about anything else in terms of competition or application. But he said, when you look at something and it's time to actually put pigment on the surface, squint. See the squint, meaning your source material or the three-dimensional object in front of you. Trust the squint. Paint the squint. Because when we do that, we forget about the things that don't matter, called details, which is particularly important in most watercolor, especially the way that we're going to approach it. And it makes us major on the major and not worry about the minors. All right. I'm going to squint at my source material. It's pretty easy where the lightest areas are. I've got a white hat. I've got a light colored jacket. I do have a color, but I prefer to work from black and white just to make sure I get the values right. And white mustache, or at least white mustache that's not in the shade. But when I squint, I can't see any eyes or really ears or any of that stuff. All this stuff's just gone. Doesn't really matter. So I can focus, especially since I only have an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes. And by the way, my watch stopped earlier. If I am off, throw something at me. Okay, let's start with the hat. We're thinking in terms of rooms and mops. So I look at the hat. My goal, as much as possible for luminous purposes, is to touch the paper with the mop wherever possible once and never come back to it, so that I get the values, the pigmentation, and hopefully the shape right the first time and don't have to go back through again. Because unlike oil and acrylic where light hits the surface and bounces back, this is a little simplistic, but it's pretty close. watercolor sits on the surface. Most of it, especially the old stuff, and nearly everything Daniel Smith does, is crystal. And the light passes through that, hits the white paper, bounces back, and there's where our luminosity comes from. If we put several layers on it, the light can't pass through anymore, and we call it mud. We get mud no matter what, even if they're transparent, quote, colors. You put enough of those, they're muddy too. So if we can do it right the first time, in other words, if we can't get the values correct the first time without having to go back, then we don't have layer upon layer that creates for us a mud problem, which is why our palettes look good and sometimes our originals look bad. Let's see what we can do. This brush is too small. When in doubt, use a brush that's too big. That one probably is too big. All right. This hat, we'll go from dark to light. But you say you do lights first. Yeah, well, I do rooms. This whole room basically is light, so I want to touch the paper only once. Okie dokie. Let's make a plan. So my plan is to find a pencil. I got a bit of a plan here. It goes to complete white. So white, by the way, in watercolor is only paper. And if you have white paint, please check it at the door. No, Winslow Homer used white, it's okay. But I'm asked, do I use white? And I don't. And I don't use mastic, not because I don't believe in them. I'm just kind of agnostic toward them. I think it makes me lazy, and I don't think like I should, I think, in terms of putting it down in one layer. Okay, stop talking, Metter. Here is paint that I didn't have time to get ready beforehand. So here's my dark gray, which is ultramarine blue and burnt umber. That's close enough. That's probably that one. I have a light gray that is cobalt blue, which is probably that one. And raw sienna, which oftentimes acts like a yellow, so I kind of keep it with a different bunch of paints. My palette is just set up based on how I've used it. I keep all my cadmiums together in one place because they oftentimes don't play well with others, and they play very well with each other, as long as I don't do many washes. All right, let's get ultramarine blue going, which again is something I should have done beforehand, but we'll just see it from the beginning. And here's burnt umber, just kind of hanging out. I call these things my mop buckets. So I've got one bucket, but it's got two colors kind of going at the same time. Now here's something I can do. I've taken a brush that's got a little water in it. I'm just going to touch it over here in the corner. It's the same bucket, but I might need something a little lighter as I'm going, so I've got it there. They start to run together and run everything every single time. Here's the cobalt blue. I'll stick it on this side of this bucket. Right now it's paint. Until I have water, it's just paint. Watercolor depends, at least my approach to it, depends upon, oops, I don't want that, pigment. A lot of it or a little of it suspended in water. That's it. It's a little bit or a lot. It's one color or a different color. It's got one characteristic, very granular, or another characteristic, very staining. How do you do that? Well, you could read a book, but it's a lot more fun to play. Just put a bunch of things down and start putting them together. When they react funny, I like it. Make a note, cut it out, stick it on the wall. I like that. Here's what I did. I'm a genius. When it doesn't work, just keep moving on. Your mother's going to put it in the refrigerator no matter what. All right. I've got 1, 2, call it 3, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buckets ready. 6 if I want super clean water. Okay. Here's my plan. I don't have one. But I do have some darks and lights that I want to do my best to try to at least pretend I care about. If I can figure out which lines. I started this drawing just by hand. By the way, I need to actually put something on paper, right? Okay, we'll do that. This is a white hat. Here's my ultramarine blue, and I don't have enough of the brown. What are we doing? Does that look like a white hat? Close enough. Because I do not want to come back and make it darker. I want to go overboard. I've already ruined it. I can't ruin it again. Okay, believe it or not, I don't think that's dark enough, but I've begun, and so we'll keep going. It's a little better. The reason I can say that is because I think it's got too much water. There's less pigment in there than there should be. So I'll grab something else since that little area in the middle is darker for sure. And we'll just make a for sure darker one real quick. The clock is ticking. I have to move. I'll just use this bucket and start connecting things. It may or may not work. I don't like it. I'm not going to wash this brush. I'm just going to go with the lighter grays. Yeah, this pretty much stinks. Now I'm just using water. And forgive me for those who've seen either a demo or taken a workshop, because I've done this thing so many times. This subject, Steve in particular, that I forget what people have and haven't seen. But if you've seen this before, okay. It's time to stop. Why is it time to stop, watercolorists? If I keep going, that watercolor is going to keep going. It's going to go where the water is. So I'm going to have a harder line than I wanted to. When it's done, maybe I can help fix it a little bit, maybe not, I don't know. But the goal here, when we're learning something new, especially with watercolor, is here's our mantra: do better next time. But don't wimp out. Don't be a wuss. Go. If you're going to screw up, go. I find that luminous watercolor with one pass success is found at the very edge of failure. And we don't know where that edge is until we fail, until we screw some things up. So I start with screwing it up, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. Let's do something fun while I do this. See if we can drive something home. It's a very light pencil, sorry, can you see it? But it's in the frame, you just can barely see it, is that right? Okay. All right, let me do something here. I'm going to do the exact same thing 3 times. And I'm going to take it seriously 3 times. I'm going to stop right there. I've got a very loaded brush. And I've got a bead that you cannot see. Even if you were standing up here, there's a bead at the bottom since the water's rolling downhill. And I'm taking it seriously. I have enough now that I can finish. Good. There are no bad techniques in watercolor there are things that don't work with this approach to watercolor, and if you're doing this, that ain't mopping. That's pointillism or something. It's not, it's valid, it's just not what we're going to do here. All right, let's do another one. Some of you are saying, I paid money for this? I'm going to a different bucket, but I'm just going to continue. I probably have enough to finish now, but I'm bored. So let's grab something. What? Something. I got buckets ready. I'm just going to grab something. Yep, I can finish that. I'm not in any hurry. I'm just mopping. This and this are exactly the same. There's no difference in those two. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit and do something I wouldn't normally do. I'm going to put in some more nuclear stuff. I'm not going to use the same brush because of what I'm putting down, but this is the same thing. Nothing has changed. I do have a bigger brush, so I can go further. In fact, I think I can do the whole thing with this brush. In fact, I'm not even going to put that in the water. Clean it out later. Here's why that's important. You notice I didn't get in any hurry. I'm painting on something called cold pressed paper, which has hills and valleys, for those who don't know. And I need to present those hills and valleys with the particulate matter suspended inside of that water so that it has time to find those valleys and create some sort of texture. It doesn't matter. It could be hot pressed, a smooth paper. That's a little portrait I did of our fourth child, Emily, a gazillion years ago. She was not real happy with me because her nose was shiny, but I liked it. That's on hot press, so you can still get texture and everything, but everything from right about here all the way to, excluding the nose, all the way down here, and excluding the eye, anything super dark, was done in one pass. Well, we started, well, it's light right there, yeah. Water, just put water right there and hope for the best. But what is not on this, and what's not in a lot of things that we do in the demo world, is how many times did we practice it before we put it down? We thought, okay, that's not dark enough, that's not light enough, that's not the right consistency that I'm looking for. All right, I'm looking at the hat again. There's things I could have done, I couldn't have done. You'll notice when I went around that dark spot, I did it with water only, and it didn't look like it was doing anything, but it does. And this just really turned into mud, but the value's pretty close. Again, I don't think it's dark enough, but that's because I've done this before. All right, let's squint and trust the squint and paint the squint. I'll do the same thing with the mustache, using a smaller brush. That means just the mustache that's in shadow, which isn't very much. So I'll go to my lighter gray, which is cobalt and some raw sienna. Tip number 80, don't go like this on your palette for our purposes. Do what you want, it's watercolor, no rules. But I like to do things like this, touch the blue and touch the other one and let them mix on the paper. I'm going to go a little lighter. How do you make it lighter? More water. Super simple. So here's some of the light portions of the mustache. I don't know. I've already ruined it, so we'll just pretend that that's pretty. It's going into some skin cones, so I'll just add some red now. The chin is light. I should have done that first. For that, Caucasian skin, I use cadmium yellow, light, and cadmium red, light. Thought I had them out. I do. You saw me use my teeth earlier. Sorry. That's a bad idea. For cadmium, it's a really bad idea. And I very seldom have success taking old pigment that's dried up in here and reconstituting it. So it's always best for me anyway, to have fresh pigment. Got too much yellow, so I'm going to get a little more red going. All this work for a little bit chin. I just flick my brush a couple times so it's a darker, more pigment, less water. Yeah, the chin is very vascular. We're going red. You're an idiot. I've already ruined it, so it's mine. Plus, my mother is going to hang it on the refrigerator. But you're right, I am an idiot. Okay. What next is light? The other thing I should have done is spent more attention. Where are the whites so that I can leave the paper? This right here is white. There's my little bitty white room. There's white somewhere in there, right there, on this white shirt. And we can make more white. Let's have that bigger. Let's just dive into scariness. Quinacridone gold. I'm not sure that I have ever done any watercolor without using quinacridone gold. Anybody never used it before? It's okay. It's depending on how much water you use, it's yellow. If you use less water, it gets redder and redder, and sometimes with a almost dry brush, not actually dry. Dry brush is this, by the way. It's damp. It's just not really dry. Then it can be almost a burnt sienna, kind of a red. It's gorgeous, and it does so well with so many things. I use a lot of cadmiums, a lot of earth ground stuff, so Daniel Smith works very well. And thank you, by the way. I have a workshop that starts Friday morning in St. Joe. It might be my last annual workshop, I don't know. Life is changing, and we'll see. But I will have at least one more workshop where we'll bring the film crew in. We'll have a real audience, and I'll do one more, so if you're interested. And you can still get in. We just moved Fridays to a bigger venue, so I think they've got more tickets now. And just like everything else in life, whatever I was saying is gone. Quinacridone gold. Okay, let's make it a Carhartt, which is that, and that. Okay, so we got some yellow to go into. I like red. Dork. Burnt sienna would be nice. It reconstitutes pretty well. Maybe I won't have to get fresh for it. That's close enough. Squint. First thing I want to do is get buckets ready. And then, second thing I want to do is make sure that I have enough water, no matter what I'm doing. Let's just put the quinacridone in there. And I've got a very heavily pigmented portion of that bucket over on this side. And I'm going to get one that's got less or more water, so less pigment suspended. But everything I'm going to do here is exactly what I did here, and here, and here. I'm just choosing which buckets to go to from one to the other, but I'm keeping it fairly consistent in terms of how much water. It depends upon how much pigment is suspended that makes us have success at this. All right, so let's just go. I don't have near enough stuff. We want red, plus it goes to dark. So we got dark gray here. We can make some kind of gray with that. Is it enough? I don't know. But if it's not good, you know what? I'm going to do better next time. When we were kids, you know, what's the colors of the sky? I got green, so we made the sky green. That's what we had. A lot of water, touch it, and this, boy, something nasty is in there, so let's just go with it. And here's that watered down yellow nastiness. I'm going to go with same water, no, a little more pigment and some red. What does that do? Yeah, it's all right. A little over here. Quinacridone with a lot of water in it. I'm not washing my brush off. I'm just going into the bucket that I didn't have enough pigment for. Let's go with the quinacridone dark, same bucket, there's just more pigment over there. See how it comes out differently? I'm going towards shadow, so I want to be prepared for that in some way. Is it possible to do an entire painting, an entire watercolor with one pass? No, I don't think it works very well at all that way. But if we can take the most luminous part, or the lightest parts of it, and keep them luminous by leaving them alone, by getting it down right the first time, then we set ourselves up for success and a whole lot less work going on. All right, I don't have any good gray, so we'll just take that. That's close enough. That's pretty light in places. That's all dark up there, but if I put it there, okay, close enough. So I can already tell this is going to be too light, but it's going to dark, so those are things I can fix. Just watercolored myself into a corner. Kind of like a mop. Let's see, one of those is red and one's not. Which one? This is not, okay. We'll just let this light run down into the dark. I'll be an idiot, or I'll be a genius. Let's just go straight water, which is dirty now. And let's go a little light quinacridone. And then something darker, like a dark quinacridone. Nah, let's go a lot darker. With a big brush, all in this one little bitty corner. Just see what it does. Look, I could fix that. Yeah, if I touch this, whatever's in here, doesn't matter what it is, the amount of water in here does not match the amount of water that's right there. So if there's more water here than there is on that little spot right there that I could fix, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to draw the pigment that's around it in if it's too dry. If there's too much water on this, it's going to spread the pigment out, and we've lost our watercolor. This is the time you go smoke something. This is the time to take a break. Don't go smoke something. That's what margaritas are for. It's about time for that technique that I talked about earlier. Now we can do the hands. Okay. Again, we're looking at cadmium yellow pale. We don't need a whole lot of pigment for hands. And cadmium red light red, depending on your manufacturer, we'll have different words for them. This is the one place, for the most part, if it's a Caucasian skin and it's in the sun, then you don't want to be too bold with your colors. This is where you do want to back off and just test something over and over again until you're happy with it. When it's time to go bold, then go bold. But more often than not, if I look at this hand, then the shadows are stark, most of the hand is light, so we'll keep it that way. It can get out of hand in a hurry, no pun intended, literally. Okay, got a lot of water in this little corner. Throw some in that corner. Close. Let's just start with water. I'm not going to pay any attention to anything. No, nothing. It does get a little darker there. Okie dokie. It has a little blue. If it turns to shadow, veins are blue. So we'll kind of pretend his hand's cut off. Okay. Yeah, we'll pretend there's shadow there, definitely shadow there, so we'll really get down. Okay, this is where I'm going shadow-wise, got it. Should have had more red in that shadow, and I don't. Too late. Do better next time, better. Okay. Let's. What is that? I don't know. Just seems like it should be there. Let's leave that fingernail. Let's don't leave that fingernail. It is amazing what the brain does. I just threw down some color, and I should have put some red in there. I can fix it. No, you can't. So I might need to put another layer or something in there. I'll definitely do a layer again whenever it's time to put the shadows in. But it is amazing what the brain does. It just finishes things for us. We just suggested a hand, and you just look at the piece and say, oh, okay, there's his hands. And we didn't do anything, but we allowed the viewer to finish the piece. And I think there's a lot of power in that. I missed the part here, so let me get it in so it can dry with the rest of it, even though it's the wrong shade. All right. Well, we kind of have, what's next? I don't know. The wild rag is touching this. That could run into stuff. It will run into stuff. It will ruin it. That'll be great. She asked, do I use a hair dryer? And I don't. And I've got nothing against them, but I want to do it in one pass if possible. And inside these pigments, especially the ones that I use, especially Daniel Smith's, are actual minerals. And those little crystals line up and they find their place and they sit. And it takes them a while to get there. That's what's happening right now as we sit and smoke things. It's actually watercoloring. And the hairdryer just speeds up that process, so they never really get to settle. I find that it dulls what I do. I think for those that layer a lot, it's very helpful because it speeds up the process. For me, when I was, I'm no longer only a watercolorist, but when I was only watercolor in the old days, if I sat down with a piece, then I would have 5 drawings of a similar layout, and I would practice till I got, okay, I like that hat. I just do pretend hats. Got it. So I got enough to do 5? I think so. Let's go. And I do one hat after the other. And by the time I got to this one, the first one was dry enough to start working on again. Interesting, isn't it cool the way the hat just kind of creates its own little undulations and it makes a hat. All right, let's do the wild rag, and then we're going to really paint ourselves into a corner. I am going to, got yellow out. Wild rag is what cowboys call scarf. It's almost, well, no, it's always made out of silk, or a lot of silk. Forgive me, I don't know where anything is in this thing. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to take, I think it was Golden that gave everybody a mystery sample. Here's what I love about watercolor. You can't predict it, and everything is a surprise. It's either a good surprise or a bad surprise. Let's see what this surprise is. We're going to use whatever this is, we're going to use it. Maybe not right now. Let's see what it is. I'm hoping it's like an opera, something light. Oh my gosh. No, it's just the opposite. Dioxazine purple. It is like the darkest. It should go in this. It should go in this one. It's nuclear, and it has no friends in the watercolor world. It lives on an island all by itself. You don't see it anywhere in any of my stuff. No, the truth is it's a gorgeous color. And I have a palette for misfit toys, just like this. We're going to use it in the wild rag. It's going to work. Oh, is it going to be bad?
It's really fun with yellow ochre.
Say again?
It's really fun with yellow ochre.
No, yeah, okra's got white in it. Sorry.
They don't all.
Do they not? What do I know? I just play for a living. I really do. When I first started, I didn't have to make a living at this when I first started. I had disposable income, I had time, and every day I got home from work, like she said, I just played. And I just mix and match and things. That looks cool. I just write down what worked and things that didn't work. And after a while, I thought this is a lot of fun. But I didn't know the science behind any of it back then. I just did it to do it. What was I working on? Wild rag. Oh yeah. Okay. First, let's test our nuclear. I like this Skoda ding brush. But I also have Raphael that I like a lot too. Wow. Okay, Golden, you made a good purple. This thing is dense. I just got some water in it. Holy moly. Dilute again. My word. I just squirted out about 3 years worth right there. Wow. Look at that, doesn't match anything. All right, well, here we go. Ready or not. These are silk. Silk through sun often turns yellow when you see it in certain lights. So I always have some pretty hefty yellow going. I need an opera of some kind. That's what I was hoping I was going to get out of that. Nah, it's not that important. This is quinacridone lilac. Let's do this in case it's poisonous. Oh, that's pretty nasty. That can work. No, I like that. It's kind of a dark opera. Isn't that like Black Swan, dark opera? I don't know what I'm talking about. I just work here. That's management's decision. All right, I got that. I have the devil. I have some yellow. Got one red. We don't have enough red. I need something earthy. Here's a burnt sienna red. We'll just throw, quinacridone. That would really screw things up. We got enough of that. All right. So, make sure I know where my room is because I can't tell what I'm looking at here. What is that? Oh, that's the shadow for the, okay, so this is red, and this is all red, and that's red, and we don't really care. But it stops right there. That we do care, and we care about that white spot. Okay, got it. And it's lighter over here, so let's just start over there with a lot of water. And I'm just going to touch that lilac stuff. I'm going to go more water. I want it lighter than that. There we go. Stop. Am I okay, Hannah? Heard it? Okay. All right. Do I need to yell? Okay, good. Thank you. Water. And I'm just touching the outside of the cadmium. That's all right. That there. Let's go back. I like this lilac. Let's go heavier on the lilac in these areas in the sun. A little there. That's red. Okay. Now let's go heavier in the cadmium. Oh, I forgot about the yellow. But I don't want to clean that off, so I'll just grab yellow. It won't work, but we'll do better next time. It might. Go back red. Quinacridone, just to mess things up a little. That goes to dark. That is dark. So we'll come back and do something with that. But this is drapery, so it doesn't add that many hard lines. Oh, that's going to stink. Oh, that's wild rag too. Well, that don't look like a wild rag. We'll do better next time. Smoke them if you got them. 3 books I suggest. We really do, artists. We live in a world where musicians use auto-tune to the point where people that can't sing are actually singing. That's cool, except we rely on that stuff. We live in a world where projecting drawings is common, and I use it too. It's a time saver for me, but a significant one. In fact, I started this doing it without, and I thought I'm just so out of time, so I just kind of found the hat exactly and just projected this on so I could have it done quickly. But let me encourage you, something I feel very strongly about. We really need to at least know how to draw. We don't have to draw everything, but we need to know how to do it. I'm a classic car guy. I've had a gazillion cars. I have a lot right now. My wife knows about all of them. Don't worry. When we buy a car and we run it through the car wash, it's not the same as washing it by hand. You get to know the car. When we actually do a drawing, we get to know the whole piece a lot better, especially if we're drawing it from 3 dimension. We all stink at it. Everybody does, with a few exceptions. And those people, you really should take their classes. However, for those of us who are intimidated by it, which are all of us, here's a book. You can take all your drawing books and give them away or put them in the box and get ready because you'll want to throw them away later. And get a book by Andrew Loomis, written in the 40s or 30s. He was a fantastic illustrator, probably my favorite illustrator. And he does a better job than anyone I've ever seen in teaching us how to draw. It's called Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. And if we can draw the human figure, then you can draw anything. Its architecture, its subtlety, its strength. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say, you know those pencil drawings of John Wayne, and he looks kind of like Churchill with a droopy eye. That's what the architecture, and there's nobody better than Andrew Loomis. When it comes to watercolor, the person that paints closest or watercolors closest the way I do it is Charles Reed. And most of us know who he is. He's got the difficulty with painting exactly like him is that he puts pigment down vertically. I mean, it's like vertical. Things are truly sliding off. So he has to use a lot of pigment. And for the science that helps us in watercolor know what to mix one to another, there's a book called, help me for those of you who know, it's Watercolor Wheel, I believe. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, John Zenerick or something like that. I get his name wrong every time. Watercolor Wheel. Thank you, yes. It is, I'm going to suggest that if this is the way you want to do watercolor, putting it down in big, heavy washes, his technique is not the one to follow. His pieces are beautiful, but you will make mud very quickly. But what he has done is a great service to everybody in the watercolor community, and that's by creating through scientifically going through the elements in here, and he's figured out what goes with what. So you can mix this yellow and this blue and make gray, or a terrible mess. Or you mix this blue and this yellow and make a beautiful green, or this one. You know, it allows you to know, okay, these work together because of the principles. So if it has quinacridone in it, you know you don't ever use this with it because it ain't going to work. If it has a staining quality like alizarin, then you don't want to use it with this one because it'll chase all your color out. But he does a good job of helping us out with that. All right, let's sprint. I squint. Then I sprint. Sorry? 30 minutes. Thank you. When I squint, he does not have a face. That is such a relief.
Say the name again, the Transparent Watercolor Wheel.
Say it again.
The author's name of Transparent Watercolor.
Forgive me.
James.
Thank you. All righty, I'm going to have I need some darks. When I squint, everything under his hat is dark. So my buckets are going to be dark. But we have dark going from grayish, he's got white hair, so it's going to be gray underneath the hat. So I'll have that ready, but it's all dark. Then we're going to skin tones, but it's all dark, so I'll get some burnt sienna ready. And I've got some heavy cadmium in case I need to tint that sienna. Okay, good enough, close enough. Let us begin. We got hair. It's boring because it's the same color. I don't like it. Let's go with something else. Got an ear right there. Throw in some cadmium for fun. We got hair. It's boring because it's the same color. I don't like it. Let's go with something else. Got an ear right there. Throw in some cadmium for fun. bit. Let's do. And there's probably sun on his nose, but it's too late now. All right. Now we're going into, well, we've got that wild rag in shadow, so we'll put some red in. We're going to the jacket. Oops. This is all stuff that I would practice several times before I actually did it. This is not going to work because the wild rag's still wet. But maybe I'll be a genius. Can you believe he did that? He made it, it was still wet. And look at it. Oh, he knew what he was doing, didn't he? Oh, yeah. He's professional. Nope, he's an idiot. But sometimes it works. Alrighty. Well, I wasn't that far off on the chin. Yeah, maybe it was. All right. Let's learn what the professional whose books I read when I first started to learn how to do this came to my workshop for. And that's to do the black. We'll do that for most of our background. There's the hint of some jeans there. For the record, jeans are not blue; they're a little more green. So I don't know why that is. It's kind of a gray greenish that comes out of jeans, denim, blue denim, then the blue. And oftentimes when we do it, they kind of look like a blue jay or a canary, bluebird or something. And that's because they're not very blue. Okay, get all my nuclear brushes together, which I'm missing one. There it is. When I first started learning to do a black that's been called the Metter Black, but yeah, I'm not marketing it. Because it's really pretty simple. It's two colors. It's, as I said before, Prussian blue and ivory black. By the way, if you're starting out in watercolor, don't buy cheap pigment. It will never work because it has fillers in it that stop light from going through. So just buy a few colors, but buy quality colors only. And get at least one quality brush. They don't have to be $400 brushes. And forgive me, I'm talking to everybody, people starting and people who've been a long time. But these brushes, Silver Black Velvet, is the best value out there, period. So if you're starting out and you don't know what to buy, Silver Black Velvet. This is probably, I could spend hundreds of dollars on a brush this size and other ones. But they use a squirrel and a synthetic blend, and they've done an extremely good job with it. And this is probably, I don't know, somebody tell me the current price is like 30, 40 bucks, something like that. So they're super. Okay. This is hard. I'm taking some ivory black, and I am putting a lot on the side here, and I'm probably going to get more. You can look on my website sometime, randymetter.com, and there's a Palomino I did several years ago. It's a full watercolor sheet, just his head. It's a pretty good case study for me because the entire side of his head on either side of the bridle was done in one pass. And all of it, all the little undulations and everything. the background is black, and it was about the second or third time I attempted the black on a real piece, on a real scale. And there's probably, with practices, probably about $200 worth of pigment that went into that. The actual painting itself, the piece itself, probably had about $40 to $50 worth of pigment. But it's a lot of pigment, and in some places too much. It might be less than that, because I actually don't remember how much. So we're using, before, this is it right here. This is the black. I did it right there. Same as that, same as that. Oh yeah, I didn't use the devil purple. Oh my word. Is it too late? We'll use the, let's see. Yeah, let's add it to the black. Let's just touch something and ruin it. It's just going to be nasty. We'll see what that does. Is there a spot? Oh yeah, his ears, guys. We'll just make that his ear. There, I did it. Yeah, okay, remind me, we're going to add that to the black. I just need to make a plan for it and get it about the right, same consistency. Actually, you know what? I'll thin it down and see what it does, if it'll give us a little satanic purple window. I think it will. Yes, this will be Prince's background. All right, now I have Prussian blue on every article of clothing I own. We are going to attempt to make skim milk viscosity with this. Whole milk will be like house paint, so that won't work. What you're trying to do, this does make a very luminous black. The piece that I have in the Fabriano show is this, not done well. It's a little painty. It should be a little more luminous than that. And I didn't have time to do better next time. I had to get it in. So I did.
That's the one with the yellow slicker?
Yep, mm-hmm. The black is a little painty. They're generally a little more luminous than that. That's pretty close right there. That's the Prussian blue. Now I'm getting some ivory black going. I'm asked every time too, every workshop anyway, do I use pours or do I wet the paper down before I do anything? Do I use this for anything on the piece? And I never do. And I don't, because there are so many variables that put this piece at risk already. I need some sort of consistency that I can count on. And if we're in Denver and we try it, it's not going to work the same as if we're in Houston and try it. So I need to start with dry paper. At least I know kind of better what I'm dealing with than to have wet paper. Obviously, there's gorgeous pieces that have wet paper. We're only looking at a very narrow focus from a very warped mind who looks at these things from an only luminosity standpoint, nothing else. That's all we're doing. If you can find a place for that in your pieces, then I'm happy. I asked a guy who many of you would know, he's pretty well known. I think he has one book out years ago. And I happened to meet him when I was not a full-time guy, but I thought, this is cool. I get to ask him about this beautiful black background that he put together. He was the only one that I knew that had one at the time. And it was not really luminous, but it was pretty. I asked him, do you mind telling me, how did you do that? And his response was, I painted for 40 years. Thanks. Appreciate that. Good, all right. Well, I figured out a way to do it, at least do something. Now, what I'm doing right now is figuring out, I've got the right consistency, but I don't have enough water in my buckets to finish this. So I've got to get the water right, which means I'll add more pigment. I'm grabbing it off the side where I squirted it out, and I put a lot in here.
Are you mixing those two colors together or in two buckets?
Yep, this is the Prussian blue in this bucket, and this is the ivory. But when I start to put them down, I'll make no reference to either of them. I'll just grab what I grab. I like to be heavier on the Prussian because it seems to make a little more sense. Now this is too light now. I can tell because I can see enough paper through it. And I've done this a bunch too.
And Randy, that's why you say go smoke, because you put it on the paper and let the paint.
And leave it alone.
do-
Yep. If we can do something that allows us to stay away from it while it is doing what it's supposed to do, we won't mess it up.
That's the best paint I've ever seen.
Well-
And you painted it that way.
Well, and it's too light. I don't have the darks in there, I don't have the reds in there, but I can look at that and say, you know what, I can do a better job next time. I really can do a better. I would think, okay, I'd practice. I've got 5 hands to do. I'm going to do them until I get them right. I have to move smoke in between, so I've got to see what I've got when they dry. But when they do, okay, I got it, and I can do 5 hands, and they will be vibrant. And I do that quite a bit. All right. I don't have enough. We ain't got no more time. Let's go. Stay away from this. Oh, I've got that. Purple. Somebody remind me. Devil purple. All right, application. My brush is too small. I should have switched. Let's do that now. Now, I don't want to take a wet brush and put it in here. I have the consistency I want, and I don't want to add any more water. There we go. Now we make a little more ground.
What size brush is that?
About a 78. I don't know, it's huge. 1 inch. It's a 1 inch, what do you call those things? Yeah, I think that's right. Right now it's nothing but Prussian blue. And don't go, there's going to be line, 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 line. So let's grab the ivory. I am going to try to get that line of the hat. Let's see how, well, he's going to have a shorter hat now. Yeah, he's got a 3/4 gallon hat now. Just 4 gallons. I did pick one ivory. Let's go ahead and get some more ivory in there. My Prussian's a little thin. I'm seeing paper through it. But, you know, it is too late. You can't do anything about it at this point. It's just time to go. But again, you see me start to hurry because I'm out of time? No, just do what you're supposed to do. I do have a smaller brush, don't I? Yeah, for some detail. There are some oh, thank you. There are some dangers to this. Anywhere where there's like a V shape, where this black can run right through your painting, and it can create cuss words. By the way, I think really, this is a little known truth, but those folks in the Navy, sailors, and oil field workers, they have watercolors to thank for their colorful language. We may not say them, but we can invent some whoppers. Oftentimes when you're doing this black, you think this is, oh yeah, and then kabloosh. Which is no big deal if you're having fun. It gets a little troublesome when it's a commission and it runs through the baby's face. You know, your hat is just the wrong shape. We're going to change that for you, Steve. Oh, thank you. Much better.
The hat's going from Charlie
Say again?
Your hat's going from Charlie Pride to Hoot Gibson.
There you go. It's, well, Steve's his own dude. Anybody know Steve? He's a hoot. He doesn't have clothes. Of course, some people say that about me. He has costumes. He's a good dude. I do an event every year with Chris Kyle's family, Chris Kyle Memorial. And for years, Steve was very gracious to give us some of his venues for the event. Look at me hurrying up. Okay, slow down, dude. I think I will. Purple. Okay, purple. Oh, hares. I forgot about the wild hares. I didn't put one in. That one's pretty wild. Another one going down. Oh, yeah. Okay, dokie. Yeah, I didn't.
So is that black so thick that it doesn't dry rapidly and you don't have to worry about blooms or anything like that? Is that correct?
That's pretty close, yeah. It'll be dry well, sometime after the election. But it might take that long. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I could be in big trouble. Oh, thank you. Purple. Let's just do it right now. How do I do that? Okay, make sure I got a solid deal here. That is one anemic wild rag. It's a pink wild rag. It's cute, Steve. Let's see. Okay, I don't want to mess up what I got going on this brush. I don't want to change the viscosity of it. So I'm just going to take this. I want it to be lighter, and it is a little bit lighter. Let's make it lighter still. I want to see if it'll give us a little purple window in here. I think it. Wild rag, In the cowboy world, that's what they call them. They're quite useful. That is the most obnoxious purple for this purpose. It's a pretty purple. It's very, but it just, I don't know. But I know what to do if I get a Minnesota Vikings commission. I'm set. No, this has nothing to do with Golden. Golden has made a very good, what's it called? Dioxazine purple. It is just a very, very potent piece. This is quite good. This is the purple one, right? Yes. Let's close the purple out and just get this done. Here's another one of those V's where his hands come together. Dude, you are having some hand issues. Close enough. We're pretty close on the back of the hat. I wish it were a little darker. I wanted to kind of have a lost line there. We don't, but that's not too bad. Say again?
It looks like it from here.
Yeah, well, especially since it's shiny. We don't know what we have actually until it dries. Let's take something, let's make something that looks like part of his get-up instead of the background. All right. And now we're just having fun. I would rather have this.
So you said that you're kind of rushing now. Would you definitely take longer to create this?
Oh, my word, yeah. Yeah, this is, and when I do demos, I was kind of really disheartened when I realized that the demos were going on the wall in there. Because my demonstrations are for talking to you only. All of these get cut up and turned into scrap paper and to, whatever else, and just they flipped over and sometimes do another demo on the backside of it if I need to. But for, I'm happy to give it to him. So we got 7 minutes left. Okay, let's glaze. Let's put another layer or two on, see if we can make his wild rag as dynamic as his chin. Can do that by choosing some areas. Sorry? That's a good question. I don't know. But as long as I can, I grew up on a little ranch in West Texas, not deep east West Texas, but say again? Red. That's cadmium red. Just trying to punch a little more color in. The wild rag was really, really missed. I can also grab something dark. What color? Something dark. And a little less water, so we've got more pigment suspended to create something that looks sort of like red would be better there. Let's do that with some red in it, like a lot of red. All right. Now I'm getting in trouble. Just a little blue vein. This should have, I could just use this dirty water and create the undulations that we need inside the hand itself, like for veins and for just little tiny things. But again, the more I cover up, the more I go over something, the duller it gets. So I have to choose carefully, what's going to be dulled. We need purple somewhere. How about now? Okay, now we've got these hard edges where I would have spent a lot more time on them. So let's just soften the whole thing up. And just let it flow a little more. Got some strong shadows in here that would really help it. Well, this is probably dry enough. Let's do that. But let's don't wimp out. Let's go with the purple. Oh, yeah, that's nasty. So, you know what? I'm saying it's nasty, but look how I could have done so much better by getting that darker the first time. But now I've just gone over everything underneath the hat, and the value is better, but the luminosity is lost. It's not. Is it worth it? If it is, then cover it. It will get your values right. In some things, it is always going to be worth it to get the values right. Let's see what we got here. Not bad. All right, we got 4 minutes worth of questions. I'm going to let us out in 3, though. Can I do what? Like face it toward you? I can't give it a whole lot of angle, or it'll drip. There's what we have. I'll leave it up here for when we're done. You guys can come throw things at it. Questions? I kind of like the purple. When it dries, we'll see. It might be dull, but I like the addition. Obviously, we need to have it somewhere else in the piece. You can't just have prints running loose on your pieces. The musician prints, you know, purple. Never mind. One more time.
You had your choice, would you have added the purple under the hat to fix the value? Or
Yeah.
would you leave that for Illuminati?
Yeah, no, I think I would have added the purple somewhere in there, and that would have been a good place to do it in the under the hat, because I've already, it would lead, and probably underneath the arm on the wild rag. Y'all welcome to come on up. Now, if I get questions from the back, I'm going to yell at everybody. So,
Great job.
thank you.